Welcome back to Bloodstained Backstories, where we dive into the most haunting cases of crime and justice. I'm Jace.
And I'm Summer. Tonight we have a chilling story that will leave you questioning the reliability of both the justice system and the people we trust the most. This is the case of Stephanie Bryan, a 14-year-old girl whose disappearance in 1955 turned into one of California's most infamous murder trials.
On April 28, 1955, 14-year-old Stephanie Bryan vanished without a trace on her way home from school. At first, no one knew if she skipped class or if something far darker was at play. But when Stephanie didn't come home that day, the search for her began, and it would set off a series of events that no one could have predicted.
Right, Jace. Let's go back to that fateful afternoon. On April 29, 1955, Stephanie was last seen walking home from school, taking her usual shortcut through the parking lot of the Claremont Hotel. At 4:15 p.m., her mother Mary called the school because Stephanie hadn't returned home yet, and she also checked with her daughter's friends. No one had seen her. By then it was clear something was horribly, horribly wrong.
And what followed was a frantic search for the missing girl. But the only clue that would surface in the early days was a school textbook found in a field near Franklin Canyon Road. That was it. No sign of Stephanie, no leads, just a textbook.
But then things took an even darker turn just a few months later. On July 15, 1955, Mrs. Georgia Abbott, a woman who lived in a home shared with her husband, Burton Abbott, made a disturbing call to the police. While searching for something of her own, she stumbled upon personal items belonging to Stephanie in a box, a purse, and an ID card.
And that's when the case started to unravel. But the most unexpected way, Georgia Abbott, Burton's wife, would be the one to unravel something that no one could have imagined. In the partially finished basement of their home, police found a shocking collection of Stephanie's belongings. Her bra, glasses, school notebooks with her names written in them, and even 2 library books checked out to her from her local school.
But here's the thing, no one could explain how those items got there. Burton Abbott, the 27-year-old student at UC Berkeley, told investigators that his basement was used as a polling place during elections, but only the garage had been open to voters, and yet somehow these personal items deeply connected to the missing girl ended up buried in the basement?
And that's not the only thing that raised question. Burton claimed that on the day of Stephanie's disappearance, he and his family were driving to their weekend cabin about 300 miles away. But here's when things got even stranger. Did Burton stop for gas or food along the way? No one could confirm his whereabouts completely, leaving plenty of room for doubt. And the vehicle was never searched for trace evidence, hair fibers, blood, nothing.
And then, Jace, on July 20th, just 5 days after the items were found, the unthinkable happened. A San Francisco Examiner reporter and photographer using a bloodhound discovered Stephanie's body in a shallow grave, just a few hundred feet from the cabin that Burton claimed to have visited.
Stephanie had been killed. Her body showed signs of blunt force trauma to the head, and strangulation marks were visible on her neck. Her own underwear had been tied around her neck to strangle her. But one of the biggest questions left unanswered was, how did her body get transported to the cabin in the first place?
As authorities closed in, Burton's demeanor began to shift. He went from calm to visibly anxious. In a conversation with reporters, he said, "I don't know how the body got there. I don't know anything about it. I'm still staying with my story." But how could he stay so confident when the evidence was mounting against him?
Burton was charged with the rape and murder of Stephanie. But here's the thing. The charge of rape was based on very little evidence. The body had decomposed too badly to confirm any signs of sexual assault. So how did the rape charge even stick? And why wasn't there more concrete evidence that connected Burton directly to this crime?
Well, there was an alternative theory. Lloyd Snyder, Georgia Abbott's brother, had been in trouble with the law before. Just in 1950, he was convicted of not only fatally shooting a man, but dismembering him during an argument at that very same cabin. But was he the real killer? Investigators eventually ruled him out, but why? Why was he cleared so quickly?
Georgia Abbott, for the most part, insisted that her husband, Burton, was innocent. In fact, she went so far to accuse her brother, Wilbur Moore, of framing Burton. Was she protecting Burton, or was there more to this story than no one knows about?
The case culminated in one of the most publicized trials in California history. The prosecution relied on emotional appeals, showing the jury Stephanie's rotting clothes and personal items found in Burton's basement. But was it enough to convince the jury of Burton's guilt?
Burton claimed that the basement had been used as a polling location and that many people had access to it. His alibi was very shaky as well. 16 state witnesses placed him near Stephanie's school route. A married couple, Jack and Ellen Hill, eventually reported seeing the car around 4 p.m. and a physical struggle between the driver and a young girl who matched Stephanie's description.
Oh, but wait. Here's where things get even stranger. No one, not one of those witnesses, called the police after seeing the struggle. And none of the witnesses could definitely identify Burton as the driver. Did they see what they thought they saw? Or was there more going on behind the scenes?
Burton claimed that he went and had a drink at a bar near the cabin. But get this, the innkeeper testified that Burton was never there. Even more damning, Burton's babysitter, who usually traveled with them to visit the cabin, was told that by Burton on the day before that she could not join the family and go to the cabin with them.
Despite all of this, Burton took the stand for 4 days. He remained calm, insisting it was all a monstrous frame-up. The jury deliberated for 7 days before returning a guilty verdict for first-degree murder and rape.
Burton was then sentenced to death in California's gas chamber, but even after his conviction, our story is not over. In a bizarre twist of fate, Burton's execution became a national spectacle. His attorneys fought for over a year to get his sentence commuted, and on the night of his scheduled execution, March 15th, 1957, he was just hours away from death, and a last-minute appeal was filed.
After a frantic back and forth, Burton's attorney called the naval ship the governor was on, preparing to complete an inspection, and asked the ship to turn on a television for Governor Knight to see a message. Governor Goodwin J. Knight granted a 1-hour stay of execution. But as the clock ticked down, time ran out. At 11:15 a.m., Burton was led into the gas chamber. The governor called the warden, but the executioner pulled the lever. And within minutes, 16 pellets of cyanide were dropped into the chamber. It was too late for the governor to stop it.
Burton Abbott was just 29 years old when he was executed that day. But the legal chaos surrounding the case raised many serious questions about the justice system, the use of circumstantial evidence, and the procedures for applying for appeal.
This case left a deep scar in the hearts of many, raising questions that still haunt us today. Was Burton Abbott really guilty, or was he a victim of a flawed justice system that acted too quickly? The truth may never be fully known, but one thing is certain. This case remains one of California's most infamous tragedies.
What do you think, Summer? Was Burton Abbott a murderer or an innocent man framed by circumstances beyond his control?
Unfortunately, it's a question that may never be fully answered. I mean, it's crazy. But the tragic story of Stephanie Bryan and the execution of Burton Abbott serves as a chilling reminder of the dangers of jumping to conclusions in the pursuit of justice.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on this case. Let us know in the comments what you think happened to Stephanie Bryan and whether you think Burton was guilty of the crime accused, or was it one of the suspects that were mentioned as an alternative to this.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Bloodstained Backstories. Join us next week as we dive into another chilling case. Until then, stay safe and keep questioning what you think you know.